Well, hello there. Here we are going to start working on a little bit of a review on what we call the karate chop. What we're going to be doing is comparing compounds and elements. So this is going to be a quick lesson on what we've been working on over the last week. So let's get started. And first we want to start with the definitions of everything. So if you need to stop, pause the video and write down the definition. That's the most important part because you need to know these definitions. And then after that, we're gonna go into the steps of our karate chop. And at that point, we will work out some problems. So hopefully you catch up. Always ask me if you need anything, if you need any help, or if you have any questions. So let's start with the first one. An element is a substance that cannot be broken down into simpler substances. Okay, elements are found on the periodic table of elements. Elements are made of one or two letter symbols. Now, all of them have the first letter and they're always going to be capitalized. If the element has a second symbol, it will be lowercase. Bear with me, I'm gonna go show you the periodic table of elements. Welcome back. Here is our periodic table of elements. So this lists all of the elements in our world, galaxy, solar system. Everything is made of these elements here. They are the smallest and most basic of all substances. So let's look up here. This is just a sample of any of them. You can go anywhere on the thing. On the top, we see boron, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, fluorine, and neon. Okay, the first five all have a single letter which are capitalized. Let's look at neon. We have some over here. Let's look at sodium, magnesium, beryllium, and lithium. What do you know about them? They have two letters. Well, the first letter is capitalized and the second letter is lowercase. But you can see it throughout the entire board. So I hope that makes sense. Just remember that this is a periodic table of elements. It lists all the elements. And so if later on, if we find that we have an element, here's where it will be. And you can verify your answer. Now, pause with me while we go back to the board. Okay, now we're back at the board. So now we're looking at the next one. A compound is when two or more elements are combined, and when they do combine, they must change. And I'll explain that a little bit further detail later. Okay, when you have a single item of an element, it is called an atom. An atom is the smallest particle of an element while it stays the same. You can learn about the different parts of an atom later, but just know that a single piece of gold, the smallest piece of gold you can get, is called an atom. Okay, so now let's go into this part. Now this has been a really fun part where we've been really karate chopping, what we call karate chopping the problems. So number one, write this down. Pause the video if you need help. One is we're gonna karate chop the left. Focus on the left side of all capital letters. The power words that I want you to pay attention to are left and capital. The next are we're going to count the karate chops after that. The number of karate chops equal the number of elements. If there's one karate chop, that means one element is an element. If we have more than one, so two or more different elements, that makes a compound. Okay. Just a second, now we're going to start working our problems. So this one might be a little bit tricky because I'm going to be writing and holding the camera at the same time. So please bear with me. Let's go ahead and grab a marker. Okay, the first one we're going to deal is salt. That is how you make salt. You add sodium and chlorine, and it makes something called sodium chloride. All right, so here's a capital letter, the N. So we are going to karate chop, which means draw a straight line. The A is a lowercase, so we do not karate chop. The C is a capital, so we karate chop. The L is a lowercase, so we do nothing. Now that we're done, there's nothing beyond it. We count up 1, 2. So we know we have 2 karate chops. Going back to the rules, 2 or more different elements make a compound. So we know that salt is a compound. So now we go to the next one, which is hydrogen. Okay, We go up here, we karate chop the capital letters. There's nothing else beyond that, so we label that a 1. Okay, go back to the rules. One karate chop, one element is an element. So we know with the one karate chop that this is a element. Next one is water. Karate chop the H. And do we karate chop the 2? No, because it's not a capital letter. Do we karate chop the O? Yes, because it is a capital letter. Number them. That's 2. So we know that that is a compound. Oxygen, O2. So we karate chop the capital letters. Do we karate chop the 2? No, because it's not a capital letter. That is a 1. So we know that is an element. Okay. Iron oxide. You don't have to know about these names, so don't worry about that. Iron oxide. So we know the capital F. That's not a capital letter. That's not a capital letter. That is a capital letter, and that's not a capital letter. So we're going to go in here and we're going to 1, 2. We have 2 karate chops, so that means there's 2 elements. 2 elements make this a compound. Ozone, O3. We'll speed it up a little bit. Karate chop, no karate chop. 1 karate chop, that means ozone is an element. Calcium carbonate. We know that C is a capital, no capital, 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 no capital. So we do 1, 2, 3. 3. That means there's 3 elements, which are calcium, carbon, and oxygen. And we know that's a compound. Last one is potassium sulfate. And one of the things I want to stress is make sure you go through every single letter or digit, just to make sure. When you follow the steps, there's no way of making a mistake if you follow all these steps. K is a capital. 2 is not a capital letter. S is a capital. O is a capital. 4 is not a capital. There's nothing else. So we follow those steps. Then you go here and you number them. 1, 2, 3. So we know there's 3 elements, which is potassium, the K, sulfur, the S, and oxygen, the O. So we have 3 elements, so that makes it a compound. And that is what we have done so far. So fairly easy. If you follow the steps. You will not mess up if you follow these steps. Make sure you learn those steps. Make sure you memorize those steps. Once they're in your notebook, you will be able to use them and you will be successful, as always. Hope this helps. Make sure you're studying hard. We still have some other items that are going to be for this lesson, but this is for the main part. Thank you all.